Alright, hey everybody, welcome to our first lesson as we start our next unit here about World War One. So for today we're going to talk about some of the elements that led up to World War One, and then what event finally kind of started the war. So our objectives and standards to understand how the world was at the brink of war and to analyze the main cause of World War One. So please take a moment there to read over the standards. And our desired result is, what were the main causes of World War One? So war comes to the world. Typically, historians have identified four main reasons for the start of World War One: nationalism, imperialism, militarism, and the alliance system. So nationalism. So we know that nationalism, we've discussed this already in class, that nationalism is believing that your country is the best and that you're, going to take over the world, and that, you're the best example for the world to follow as an example. So the view of nationalism is devotion to one's country and its interests. But nationalism can be good in building support and unity for your country, but can also lead to competition and rivalries among nations. So one of these things that happened was that many European nations became fearful of the power of Germany in the late 1800s and early 1900s. Ethnic groups also looked for independence from stronger nations and hoped that others would assist their goal. The protector of the Slavic people in Europe, such as the Serbs, was seen as Russia. So we'll talk about Serbia in a little bit here. Now, Serbia had been independent, but millions lived under the control of Austria-Hungary, and Russia and Austria-Hungary were rivals for control of Serbia. Again, trying to expand your control as a country, and again, we'll talk about Serbia here in a little bit. So imperialism, another cause of World War One. During the past centuries, Europe had been building strong empires around the world. We talked about Africa and Asia, and even the United States with the imperialistic powers going on. They had been slow and in expanding their political and economic control around the world, and European imperial powers were looking for raw materials and markets for goods from colonies. Many European nations, including France, Germany, and England, are going to compete for these different regions around the world, which we talked about before. So here's a map of imperialism in the modern world in 1900. You can kind of see the colors here, and the color code from the map there of where different European powers and other countries had control around the world. So take a moment there to look at that map. Okay. So the cost of an empire is expensive to build and defend. So increases in imperialism and nationalism resulted in increased military spending, and countries wanted a stronger military than their potential enemies or potential competition. So many implemented a policy of militarism. So the development of armed forces as a tool for diplomacy is known as militarism. Now, Germany had the strongest military by 1890, but the British had the strongest naval forces. However, the British become nervous when the German Emperor or Kaiser, Wilhelm II, decided to compete with the British Navy and kind of build up the German Navy as well. Other countries, including the United States for that matter, also joined the race to complete the naval arms race. So our last kind of cause here for World War I is the alliance system. So there were two major defense alliances in Europe by 1907. Later known as the Allies, the Triple Entente were made up of Great Britain, France, and Russia, and some others as well. It would later include the United States and Japan. Germany, Austria-Hungary, and the Ottoman Empire, and Italy were part of the Triple Alliance. They would become known as the Central Powers because they were typically located in the central part of Europe. Both groups served as international security for their allies, so they sought to defend their allies and their interests around the world. Here's a map that kind of shows you, for Europe at least, where these allied countries were, where the central powers were, and also the more neutral countries. You can take a moment to look over that. You might be looking at Italy and wondering why Italy is in orange in the Allies. That's because Italy will actually join the Allies in 1915. So Serbia. Europeans had had interest in the Balkans region of Europe, where there were many different ethnicities and a lot of different competition between different countries. A rail link was wanted by Germany and access to the Mediterranean Sea by the Russians. So they're all competing for this region known as the Balkans. Now, Serbians were accused of subverting or trying to kind of stop Austria-Hungary and their power in Bosnia, which Austria-Hungary had taken control of Bosnia in 1878. In June of 1914, Archduke Franz Ferdinand, this gentleman right here, sitting in the car with the hat, shaking hands, and his wife were visiting Sarajevo in Bosnia. He was the heir to the Austrian-Hungarian throne. He and his wife Sophie were visiting the capital of Bosnia. As they rode in the car, or as they were getting ready to ride through the city, they were assassinated by Serbian nationalist Gavrilo Princip. So they're in the car here. Actually, this picture was taken maybe moments before they were actually assassinated. So this is one of the last pictures of these two. Like we said, as they were going through this parade here. Gavrilo Princip was a member of the Black Hand, which was an organization that promoted Serbian nationalism, again, because Serbia wanted to be free of Austrian-Hungarian rule, so that's why he assassinated both these people here. So this is kind of the spark, or the final event that sets off World War I. So on July 28, 1914, Austria-Hungary declared war against Serbia because of the actions Princip had done. And because of the alliance system, nation after nation will be pulled into the war, okay? Germany will declare war on Russia on August 1st, 1914, because Russia was trying to defend Serbia, and Russia was going to attack Austria-Hungary, so Germany turned around and declared war on Russia. Germany then also declared war on Russia's ally France, and Great Britain finally decides to declare war on Germany after Germany decides to invade Belgium. So again, all these different elements and the final event of the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand kick off what will become known as the Great War, or later become known as World War I. So at this point, World War I has begun, and we will start talking about that, the fighting and the events of World War I next week. All right, so I hope you have a great rest of your day or evening. Let me know of any questions, and I'll talk to you soon.